hopefully.
So you're Albanian, isn't it? Hello? Hello. Nice to have you here. I was already introduced, and I did quite a lot of talking about blockchain and crypto in the last 2 years. Thank you for being here. I hope today this is going to be switched to our guests, and they are experts in their field, so we will leave some of the questions for the end, for the last minutes. Please be prepared. We hope that we'll have questions from your side. So we have 3 guests today from different types of fields of blockchain in general, and maybe they can do a short introduction about themselves so you are better familiar with their field of work. I would like to start with our friend Arnaud from France. Hello, Arnaud.
Hi.
Hello.
Thank you for... It works, yes?
Yes, it works.
Hi, my name is Arnaud Saint-Paul. I'm the founder of Give Foundation, which purpose is to help kids. We created a cryptocurrency called Give, which purpose is to help kids give to charities, get a financial education at school, make impact investments. So how can we use currencies, you know, the bitcoins and all that we're talking about, for a positive impact on our economies and creating new pathways, new patterns that helps us to manage better money and grow ourselves. So we have a short video. Can we fire it up now? The YouTube video. So we're going to present you kids that are using the currency here in Kosovo, in Pristina. That's not it, no, that's another one. So here we go. The sound should be better. So it happens in digital
space.
Sure.
I think it is
Can you
a
restart
pretty cool,
One minute.
thing since
I like the Give app because it's a good idea. It's a perfect idea to make kids do their things, their chores.
I think it is a pretty cool thing since we need to know first of all how to earn money and to try working and earning them. And not just having money just from our parents. I think that will build us as people.
As for me, I think it's an amazing idea because not a lot of kids know how to be more responsible and more independent, and that is a great way to learn and to be actually more conscious of how we spend money and what to do and what not to do, because at our age it's kind of difficult to know how to act because we're not mature enough yet, I guess. And having to do some chores or some things to actually earn money and have your own money, I think that's an amazing idea.
First of all,
Okay, that was the fun part. We can't have the fun part?
help my family and save some for my study when I grow up. And that's all. All I want to do is help people.
Well, I'd probably invest in something to make even more money. Because if you have 1 million give, you're probably gonna end up spending it in 1 year or so. And if you invest in something, you're just gonna get a constant flow of give, which results in more money, and everybody likes money.
So that 10 years old says the truth again. We all love money, isn't it? So blockchain is not only about trading, it's not about just making money, it's also about helping others. It's about we have the ability to track logistics, to figure out fake medicines and making sure that everybody is safe. It's about a lot of things to have an impact not only on our environment but also at a social level. And I think that's the message that I want to convey here, is that we have the ability, using the blockchain technology, which is a blockchain with multifacets, not only to have more money, but more importantly to have a safer and more fun environment around ourselves. Thank you.
Hi.
Can you do the same, Oleg?
Yes, I'll keep it short. Can you guys hear me? Yeah. To this slide, I'll come maybe a bit later. So I'm Oleg Giberstein. I represent Coinrule. I'm one of the founders. We are a London-based crypto trading strategies editor. We are a sandbox for cryptocurrency traders to build their own crypto trading bots without the need for using any programming skills, very visual type of trading strategies creation. And the trading strategies then get executed on cryptocurrency exchanges like Binance and so on. I also organize the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance meetups in London, and I'm involved in a number of crypto communities, both in London and around the world.
So besides two international guests, we have Arianit, who is our local boy. Maybe you can introduce yourself a little bit.
I am Arianit Pajaziti. Or I can...
Yes.
Okay. I am Arianit Pajaziti from Blocknify. Blocknify is an e-signature solution, a decentralized e-signature solution that offers or allows you to sign documents between different parties by using the blockchain technology and peer-to-peer for transferring. How do we reach this in Blocknify? How do we reach this service? We do this by harnessing the power of smart contracts, which I would maybe explain a bit later how do they work and how we make use of it. This is the way we facilitate the process which allows us to sign documents between two parties without having any knowledge about the document itself, us as a company.
So, especially in the last 2 years, and especially in end of 2017, we have been bombarded by media and by so much talk about blockchain, about crypto. Everybody was talking about it. In Kosovo, even if you went to cut your hair, people were talking about blockchain. If you went to buy some medicine, people were talking about blockchain. If you went to have a coffee, people were talking about Bitcoin. And still, maybe 95% of the people in Kosovo still understand blockchain and Bitcoin something as a betting system, as something that you buy something that doesn't exist and then you sell for a higher amount of money. And I want to know from you guys, I want you to help me because I tried to do it myself in the last 2 years, but I want you to tell me, especially Arnaud, to tell me what is the social impact of blockchain in general? How do you see this impacting life of these people over here and people in the world?
People in the world, so, you know, the blockchain, so there is crypto, of course, which is just one side of what blockchain is. The ethos behind blockchain is about community. It's about giving to each of us individually the sovereignty on all our data, all our currency as well. So we don't need any more the banks and all that stuff. We can be our own banks and so on. And that's, I think, the big revolution that we're starting to see in many places, in the south of Mexico, in Africa, in China, everywhere, where even the people, so here we are all banked. We all have a bank account, or actually usually several, but if you look at the world, most of us are not. If you go in Africa, obviously, or even, as I mentioned, Chiapas, people are only handling cash on their own. So the promise of blockchain is also to allow each of us to be our own bank wherever we are, within whichever conditions we are. And that, I think that's, again, it's enabling people, empowering people for them to manage all their lives without to be dependent on others. And that's the underlying message of blockchain. That's why it's such a huge revolution, because it's going to affect all the different layers of our society. And of course, it also has many, in a very practical standpoint, you can help today a farmer in Chiapas who is usually lending money at 20%, and you can give it to him at 5% thanks to blockchain. You can trace or track fake medicines in Africa to make sure that they are only provided with the right medicines, and so on and so forth. There are many different applications. It always boils down to one thing, which is providing more and more empowerment to each individual. And that's the very promise of what blockchain is about. The greed aspect, the trading aspect, which is also very useful, is a side effect of it, but that's not the main one. And I think that's a strong message that needs to be conveyed to everyone, is we are all here to be empowered and to be creating an amazing life for ourselves, and blockchain is that promise.
Thank you. Oleg, I would like you to jump into this momentum, and if you could help me and help the audience understand some real-life impacts of blockchain in industry, while also I would like you to answer two very critical questions that I myself and also the audience probably has in their head, which are why and who should be afraid of cryptocurrency, and why and who, or let's say why we should not be afraid of cryptocurrency.
Thanks. This is an interesting question. Well, two of them. Obviously, I ultimately don't think anyone should be afraid, but I'll get to that in a minute. Let me start first with why people should not be afraid, or actually even should be excited. Just looking at the very original basic digital currency use case, if Bitcoin was able to disrupt the digital gold use case, the store of value, we are talking about over $7 trillion market. Now, what is it about gold that is valuable in the first place? It's an insurance. It's insurance against currency devaluation. It's an insurance against your government misbehaving. Now, how many people in Venezuela or in Zimbabwe actually have access to buying gold? Very few, but many more people have access to buying Bitcoin online. So in itself, digital currency is already an insurance for people against their governments misbehaving in monetary policy. So this alone is actually already a huge thing. But this is just the start, as we heard. This is now just the start. So if technologies like Ethereum, platforms like Ethereum, successfully manage to scale, we are talking about use cases from transporting your identity digitally across all systems. You don't need to save passwords. You literally have your identity stored on the blockchain and can use it for reputation, for opening bank accounts, and so on. You have cross-border payments, multi-trillion-dollar market. Currently, small, medium-sized companies, not even talking about the large ones, pay huge amounts of money to make cross-border payments. With blockchain, you can cut out middlemen left, right, and center and make this significantly easier. We have use cases in just the basic blockchain use case, decentralization, for users to protect their privacy, save their data from platforms, from centralized actors, such as Google, such as Facebook. Blockchain is a fantastic use case for that. And I'm not even touching areas like supply chain management or decentralized autonomous organizations. So there is a lot that even this is literally the tip of the iceberg. Now, why should people be afraid? Obviously, as you guys implied, some people see crypto as primarily a tool for gambling, for trading, and this is partially also why, obviously, people have, particularly this year, have lost also a lot of money. There's a lot of technical complexity. There's a lot of elements of it that overwhelm users. This is, in fact, partially why we're also building Coinrule, because we want to help traders to be able to deal with that system in a very simple interface. Now, I'm not someone who would like to say that trading is a minor element of the technology. Why? First of all, we all talk about growing income inequality around the world. One of the main reasons for that actually is that the richest, the top 1% of the world population, have access to financial instruments, to stocks and securities, which we barely are able to access as, I would say, retail investors. I mean, who here would know where they would go to buy a Facebook or Apple stock? With cryptocurrency, you literally democratize a huge market. You give access to someone in India, someone in South Africa, someone in Kosovo, the same opportunity to maybe invest into the next Facebook, the next Google, that some investment banker in New York has. This is really something that could be a game changer. Now, when should people be afraid of it? if they don't do their own research, if they don't diversify, if they don't learn from their mistakes when they trade, or if they decide to, you know, sell their house and their children to invest in crypto, obviously they should not do that. And then there is not really anything to be afraid of.
Thank you. Thank you. Besides what's happening with blockchain in the world and about crypto, we have some local stories also. Actually, every day I found out more and more companies in Kosovo are doing very interesting solutions and applications with crypto. Actually, outside I met two local companies who are actually also friends of mine who are developing applications on top of blockchain. Pajaziti is one of the pioneers together with his team who started making an application on top of Ethereum, right? So maybe you can tell us a little more about it, and then we come back to our friends to discuss even more.
So yeah, as the other speakers mentioned also, like with the invention of this new technology, it came like it didn't come easy. We've seen a lot of scams developing while this technology has started to get more practical. We've seen like cases of fraud ICOs. We've seen cases of pumps and dumps where people like were increasing the value of a certain coin for like earning and stuff like that. While all of this was happening, us at Blocknify, we were thinking or searching for ways of actually making use of this technology and see how this could be implemented in a product that works and harness its best values, not only the use case with currencies, but also like make use of it with more advanced applications. In our case, with the invention of the second generation blockchains or chains that allow you to be used not only as currencies, but chains that allow you to deploy smart contracts inside these, we were thinking of how can we make use of this technology. So the idea that like this is the foundation, how the idea about our product that we're working on came on. So what we make use of the blockchain technology is mostly the smart contracts. For those that don't have a clear idea of what a smart contract is, a simple explanation would be a smart contract is basically a chunk of code or some functions that are deployed inside this blockchain ledger, which is used also for cryptocurrencies. And basically, this smart contract can offer you some logic where you can verify something, or if a transaction is performed towards this smart contract, you can trigger a certain function. So how do we use these smart contracts in our product? Our product, as I mentioned, is an e-signature solution. So what we make use of the smart contracts is that for the documents that are to be signed between two parties, we basically deploy a smart contract in the chain, which helps verifying or telling that a particular document has been or is to be signed between two parties. So yeah.
Thank you. I would like to come back to Oleg. So last year, besides the rise of crypto, besides the rise of interest, especially in Kosovo and the region here, and also in the world, we had so many misuses, scams, problems with crypto, misinformation, so many fake news, which are also affecting the market, as you see right now in the world. But it's very difficult for a country who is new to this to understand this and to be defended towards all this misuse. We had OneCoin who did amazing job. Amazing, while I'm saying that, amazing, I mean they're scamming a lot of people. More than 2 million euros were invested in OneCoin according to some research. Then we had BitConnect, which is one of the biggest scams in world of crypto, and they were huge in Kosovo. How do people know? What do they do? What should they do so they get informed on time, and while at the same time we don't damage and we continue to invest and research into crypto? And maybe then Arnaud can help out with this. So what should they do?
it's obviously a very, very important question. My first answer to that maybe would even be somewhat counterintuitive. A lot of people ask me if they should invest in cryptocurrency, and I very often say no, because if you are unable to do the research, if you are not maybe tech savvy at this point in the progression of the technology, maybe you should not be investing in it. Now, the way how to actually become tech savvy, the good news about this market, it's so out there. It's literally, this is the most transparent market there is. If you would be investing into, I don't know, options or some of the, or like let's say binary options, people lose significantly more money on them than they have lost on crypto. You have banks, you know, creating, you know, major trouble and losing much more money than has been lost in crypto. Now, the interesting thing with crypto is because it impacts retail investors, like normal people. We want to make sure that this would not be happening. So what should people do? There are platforms like KosICT, there are platforms like Messari, which are almost like crowd-driven credit rating agencies, you could call it, for crypto. There's a lot of research out there. And for example, something like BitConnect, I would honestly say, I mean, like a vast majority of the people in the space where for them it was very obvious that this is a scam. You just literally would have to go through the Reddits and read the reviews. Now, does this mean that people who got burnt on it should never touch crypto again? Absolutely not. In a way, the best way to actually learn is you lose some money. I've lost money on crypto. I've made money on crypto. You lose money, and if you have not been, you know, investing your house and your kids, you are fine, and it gives you the inspiration to actually learn and improve. You discover the sources, you know where to go, you know which people to ask, and this is what you built on. Just don't invest if you have no idea what you're doing. Never buy a cryptocurrency if you have no clue what it does.
So thank you. So what I really loved about what you're building is that it's directly connected to what I'm asking him. So the idea is if we can teach our kids to use a technology simply, understand it from scratch in a very simple way, it means that it will help them defend themselves against these. Right, am I on track?
Yes, I mean, it goes beyond that, but that's a good start. And connected with what you were saying, it boils down to one thing, well, to several ones, but at least one is very important, is education. So not just education at school, but educating oneself about the instrument that one buys. What we've experienced last year and the year before for the crypto world happened in the stock exchange many times over in the past 100 years. So it's nothing new. It's just that when we get so enthusiastic and ecstatic about something that is happening and it's go fast and then I want to be in, and if not, I'm going to missing out, that popular frenzy needs to be looked from a common sense standpoint and look at what is the actual real impact this or that project will have long term, not for the next 2 days, but you know, what does it, how is it grounded, if I may say so. And if we can provide to kids in our case, but to everyone here in this room and beyond, some very basic rule of common sense, again, like looking at a project, the team behind it, the why they are doing it and where they're going to do it, then we have a good base on making a safer bet. Whether there are professionals that are telling you that it's good or not doesn't matter. The same thing happens in the stock exchange. So now to your question, yes, our goal is to help our kids, first and foremost, to learn how to manage money. And you touched on that. Investing a house on a stock or on a crypto doesn't really make sense because it's not good, safe financial management. So we do need a financial education first and foremost. That's the first layer. And on top of that, it happens that they are going to be able to, by using a crypto called, in this case, Give, which is stable, it's not going to be volatile like Bitcoin, it's very, very stable. They will learn how to use it, to use a money of the future with common sense, financial education, to do good and to invest as well. They will be able to invest in trees. So each time they plant a tree, they get a return of 10% per year. Not bad, right? And then they can also, after a certain number of years, trade between themselves, like creating a small stock exchange within the school and learn to lose and earn, but in a very safe environment. And it all boils down always to education. So let's take the time and the common sense to look at things and learn ourselves, and then we can act.
Thank you. Since we have 5 or 7 minutes left, I think I would really love to welcome some questions. 10 minutes?
10 minutes.
Oh, beautiful. So I would really love to welcome some questions from the audience. Is it one over there? And maybe then we can come back to some of the things.
Okay, thank you for your panel. My name is Nikola Korbar. I'm the CEO for Center for Economic Research Belgrade, and I'm in the crypto industry for 3 years. Regarding your question, I wouldn't ask anything. I would just like to add one important aspect. A lot of people were talking, like here, like in Serbia, like everywhere else, like crypto, Bitcoin, buy this and get rich quick. There were a lot of schemes. A lot of people don't take into consideration one important thing. The crypto market is actually very small. It's $200 billion. And if we compare the Forex market, for example, which is around 5-6 trillion, it is much more easier to disrupt, it is much more easier to manipulate. And what we have actually seen in December is that $600 billion were pumped into the market and very quickly pumped out. So that drove the Bitcoin in and out. So I think that more what should people in the blockchain industry and crypto industry should focus is on creating more utility for the coins themselves rather than using them for trading. And so trading is good, trading is necessary, but unfortunately it's the biggest activity currently in the crypto industry. So we should more focus. What I like about your project, about education, is that, okay, you are teaching kids how to use crypto, how to learn about finances, and this is something that crypto industry should be more focused on. For example, the Blocknify. I spoke to your colleague outside, and I really like the project. This is something that we should focus on more. Like, okay, we are creating tokens, we are creating coins, but they are being used for more than just like go to crypto exchanges and trade with them and so on. So this is one of the things that we as crypto professionals should be more be focused on than just how to say. Oh my God, my word escaped me. Speculation.
Speculation,
yeah.
yes. I couldn't agree more. I mean, our game is to bring maybe $1 trillion to the crypto market. We're talking about 2 billion and a half kids, 2 billion and a half wallets that will be starting to trade. So that's the kind of projects you want to back up because that's going to broaden the scope for everyone, and everyone will be safer overall.
Just maybe one comment on that as well, and thanks for that statement. One thing we keep forgetting is how young the technology is. The reason there's been so much hype partially is because obviously everyone can track the price of the coin, so everyone gets very excited and everyone gets very upset if it goes down. But people forget still how young all of this is. So a lot of the use cases that are developing, they're still, the scaling is just not there yet. But even the point you made about the FX market, that's completely true. A lot of the volatility we're seeing is just a question of the lack of liquidity. Just to say 2 words about the charts here, which I included, the majority of the assets we see, or the instruments we see on the left, are things which could be tokenized and could run on blockchains and could be tradable on blockchains. And it would make perfect sense. It would be more liquid, you cut out middlemen, it's more transparent, it's more easy to record who actually owns what, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the potential for this market to actually become significantly bigger, driven by use cases, both in terms of smart contracts, but also tokenization of assets, is gigantic. And we just need to keep in mind that this will take 3 to 5, maybe 10 years, but it's getting there. It's just a question of time.
Thank you so much. Maybe just 1 minute to come back to, thank you so much for what I would like to just add to that is that it's a very critical thing right now, the crypto, because 99.9% of the people in the region and the world, they really don't know. So today when I come in here, I went into a taxi and the taxi driver recognized me. They called me Bitcoin now in Kosovo. Nobody knows my name. Just think I'm Bitcoin. And he said, hey, what are you doing, Bitcoin? Our money is, we lost our money. And I said, how do you know me? He said, I watched you 20 times in TV. And I said, have you ever actually listened to me, what I speak? Because more than 50 times in every TV station in Kosovo, I have never told anybody to invest. Actually, I did the inverse. I said, please don't invest. As soon as you have the question, should I invest? I say no. Because people who have this question, they don't know what they're doing. If you're already invested, then I guess you know what you're doing. And I said, did you listen to me speak? He said, well, to tell the truth, I never listened to the TV, but you were there, you're a lecturer, you're Bitcoin, so I thought, yeah, just sell the car and buy some Bitcoin. So actually I thought while coming here, I said, actually that's true. I mean, I shouldn't maybe even went into the TV and talk about Bitcoin, because I'm gonna influence people who have, like the taxi driver who knows nothing about these things. He will either way not understand what we were saying there, talking about the cryptography behind blockchain and stuff like that. So we have to be very careful with these guys. And that's what I would like to add to that. Thank you so much. Who was the other?
There's one over there, one over there. Oh, here's the microphone over there.
Is it okay? I want to hear some FOMO here. I want to know your thoughts about ETF and BAC and the crypto regulation and also the mass adoption.
I can quickly respond, especially on the point about ETF. Oh, the question. Yeah, the question was about like our thoughts on ETFs, on mass adoption, and what was the third one? Oh, regulation. Regulation as well?
Regulation and back. I don't know what.
Back.
Well, regulation. Okay.
BAT. Well, let me start with the ETF. Obviously, it's been like
BAKKT. Backed.
I'm not sure. I'll start with the ETF, and then maybe we can speak about the back later. Basically, with the ETF, obviously there's a lot of shenanigans and yada yada going on between the U.S. regulators and basically those who want to set up exchange-traded funds. So an ETF, it's basically like an index tracker. It would be a fund that holds Bitcoin and then just tries to follow the price, and regular investors and funds can invest into it. It will eventually get approved. It's just a question of time. They approved the first ETF for gold. It was, I think, in the late 80s or so. So I would just ignore a lot of the noise that's happening around that. It will come. With regulation, it's a very important question, which we have absolutely not the scope here to cover entirely. Generally speaking, regulation is good. The right kind of regulation will give a lot of actors, be it funds, be it users, be it investors, the opportunity to enter crypto, which will then help mass adoption further. And the main point with mass adoption, that will depend on the scalability, and that will depend also on the products. Once people can use blockchain-based technology without even knowing that the blockchain is involved, that's when we are getting towards mass adoption. We can talk about it in more detail maybe later, because obviously it's a very large question.
Thanks for this panel. Yeah, maybe I should raise my voice. What about the usage of blockchain in supply chain? Thank you.
Yes. So by the use of smart contracts, actually, we have found a pretty day-to-day use case for usage of the smart contracts. But by using this logic that can be embedded inside the chain, a lot more can be reached. For example, for our product, like our vision is that in the future we start not only allowing for signing documents between two parties, but also make use of the complete approval process, let's say in a legal office or in a financial business. Like we've been working, and we have also ideas of like completely maybe replacing the whole banking system with smart contracts, which would work in a logical way, like checking, depending on the functions that are defined inside these smart contracts. But nevertheless, the usage of them pretty much can be anywhere, because all business processes are directed towards certain rules that have to be applied. And if you want to enforce these rules automatically, by using the smart contract would be, like, I would say, the best way of doing it. So yeah, it can also have an application in the supply chain, but also in other areas too.
There's one thing that's needed specifically to make it also work for supply chains. You need to get the data into the blockchain. That's a major point of potential failure. So you need things like IoT, Internet of Things, to be able to capture the right type of data. For example, Siemens started a trial in the UK whereby they have trucks which transport, let's say, milk or meat from farms. The trucks are equipped with sensors which measure completely the state of the product, and that gets recorded on a blockchain. The shops to which the product is being delivered can see it, Siemens can see it, the farm can see it. You know, if a product arrives bad, you know exactly at what point it happened. So this is a beautiful example of how this could work. But you need to combine it with other technology as well.
Thank you. Any other questions? Because it's very different. Yes.
Recently, we heard a lot of news about this institutional money coming into crypto. I wanted to know more about it. Are they coming sooner?
Institutional money.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can actually directly answer that question. In the last 2 months, I've spoken with 2 hedge funds, one with $3 billion assets under management, one with $18 billion assets under management, who are both currently trading Bitcoin. It's not necessarily public information, so I can't disclose any names, but it is happening. What is public information is the endowment funds of Harvard, MIT, Stanford started, I think literally over the last month, started investing into crypto projects. Which is huge because these are very large investors. They are fairly conservative and fairly sophisticated. The fact that those guys have already started, I mean, it's not even just a question of time. It's literally happening right now. So it's a question of when will we see this impact the market more than if it's a question of will it happen.
And if I may, we have to understand really that we are at the very beginning of this market. Beginning meaning that in 10, 20, 30 years from now, it is very likely that everything will be on the blockchain from a monetary standpoint, meaning all these stocks that we're talking about. So it's also a long-term cycle that we have to take into account. The institutional money comes in due time. It will invest some money and then some more and then some more. We just have to think less about a 1 month investment cycle to go into a few years investment cycle, and everything will be fine. We just, again, have to be patient.
I will also add something there as a moderator, but we have to understand, maybe me because I like the technology a lot, is that the price of coins is not necessarily good to be up and down all of the time. There are so many cases for tokens and for companies who are making these tokens that they need the price to stay constant more than going up and down. If we want Bitcoin to be acceptable, we need it to be sometimes constant and not jumping up and down. So companies can accept it as a means of payment, so companies can predict and can strategize around Bitcoin. And if they see these jumps going so high as we saw it in November and so low as we are seeing it now, then most of them are going to back up from this technology and going to be scared towards it. If we want Stellar to be used as a transactional token, maybe we need it to be stable and not jumping too much. And yes, for the company and for the founders itself, maybe it's good if it gets high because they will get money that they will then use to do a lot of research and expanding their team, but not all of the time. So I'm trying to put the price of a token or of a crypto as a secondary means of expanding blockchain as a technology.
Agreed, and also it's very much tied with the utility. That is because until now we had the utility token, that was the one that was mostly traded, but most often that utility was not really proven. I mean, it's a beautiful drawing on the drawing board, but nothing really was happening. So I think that's a very important point. Now we're getting into securities token that will change things a lot, yeah.
Okay, I think we are out of time. I wanted to thank my guests again from coming to Kosovo. I think for both of them is the first time.
Yes.
We are, hope we will see you again next year, and we wish you all the best with your Blocknify. I am very proud that companies in Kosovo are producing very nice applications based on blockchain and not just buying and selling Bitcoin on the market, which is also okay if they want to do it, but this production of applications is really what motivates and should motivate us. Thank you for your time being here.
Ermal and the panelists for this very qualified discussion. We have now the last break for today until 20 to 5. So we continue here at 20 to 5 with another 2 panels and the closing keynote.